Today, I had the privilege of training at the beautiful Buena Vida Academy in West Sacramento, California, under half Gracie black belt, Professor Vida. As you can see in the video, we had some great times, some great rolls, making memories on the mat. If you would like to come in and make your own mat memories, stop on by Buena Vida Academy if you're in the West Sacramento, California area. All of the details for this academy are going to be in the description below. And now for today's episode of Everyday Self-Defense with me, BJJ Girls Rule, Becca, and my good friend and half Gracie black belt, Carl Gonsolin. It's back again with BJJ Girls Rule and another episode of Everyday Self-Defense. I'm here with my good friend Carl Gonsolin, who is a half Gracie black belt. I had so much fun today. You guys are going to see little clips of us, rolling in a little bit of the class. If you are interested in training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, maybe you're a little nervous like we said in the last video, but you want to get started, today's show is for you. If you have any questions, please put that in the comments. If you like this page, go ahead and like, share, subscribe.
Going right to the main question. What would we have liked to have known when we first started in Jiu-Jitsu?
So many things.
Yeah, shall I pull up some of the questions?
Let's get right into the questions.
First question we had was from Ruben. He said, what are some of the red flags to look out for at a gym?
If you follow me on Instagram and you see my lives, I talk about boundaries and red flags all the time. I'm gonna just sit here and let Carl take it away a little bit because he's got some really good black belt wisdom.
I've been training for about 14 years, close to 15. I've been a black belt for about over 3 years. When it comes to red flags in Jiu-Jitsu, I kind of broke it down into three major things. The big three categories is the general environment or the conduct in your gym or at your gym. The second one is progression issues, because there's red flags with if you just feel like you're a hamster on a wheel going nowhere after a long while. And then there's also the whole money pit issue when you're getting charged for any and every little thing. The first one, the general environment and conduct. A couple of red flags I found in the jiu-jitsu community, like you're joining essentially a gym. We can be very family oriented. There's a fine line between being family oriented and then the professor or the owner acting very domineering. Usually a big red flag is if you go to a gym and if they're very controlling, like think obsessive ex-boyfriend type stuff. Those situations seldom get better. So that's a pretty big red flag. Also, cleanliness is a very important thing. If your gym's letting people walk on the mat with their shoes and stuff, but when we're dealing with rolling on the mats, cleanliness needs to be really high up there. It could be a severe issue that can spread heavily at academies.
There is ringworm, there's staph infection, there's MRSA.
So wash your gi every time you roll.
Yes, please.
Don't just
As a black belt, let me know what you think. I pay money to join an academy. I pay money to learn.
So there's a certain degree of flexibility on stuff. Some gyms have a particular gi color requirement.
Yes.
When you pay dues and they're not providing a service, then you can simply go to another gym. Me personally, there's gyms that I've been at and I'm like, this is great for me. Maybe it's not a good fit for the other person, and vice versa. Maybe their gym is amazing for them, but it's not a good fit for me. At least I like to wear all sorts of different color gis. Maybe their gym has a restriction on that. Or maybe their gym is like, you need to be X and X places to always support 24/7. I'm a busy person, I have a lot of stuff to do. I try to be there when I can, but sometimes I can't. If that's like an issue, then we're gonna have an issue, period. They don't pay your bills. They're not your sponsor. They are providing a service. If I'm not providing a service, or whatever the position is or technique, then they are 100% entitled to simply shift elsewhere. Again, don't feel stuck on a particular gym and feel like you have to bend to every whim, or it sounds like a controlling ex-boyfriend. That is not okay, and that's not just jiu-jitsu, that's any gym environment period, whether it's martial arts or some gym. So.
Any sport facility, any kind of team. But also, yes, in relationships. Honestly, and I don't even know if I ever told you, I was in a relationship at some point where I was told not to train with Carl. I was told not to you're not allowed to go train over there.
I'm not a spaz, just so we know. At least I don't think in my head, I don't think I'm a spaz.
That's not why I was in a controlling relationship relationship, guys, and it didn't rear its ugly head until I was told you're not allowed to go train with your friend anymore. So, I mean, regardless of the type of relationship, and Jamie, on my Instagram page, if you go back, you'll see we talked about boundaries even in work environment, right? It's at work, it's at training, any type of extracurricular activity you do, any type of relationship you're in, friendships, romantic relationships. We really want to look at this red flag. If that works for you and that's what you want to do, feel free, by all means, go right ahead. Maybe this video isn't for you. But if you're in a situation or have been in a situation where you feel constricted, like you feel like you can't be yourself, you don't have to stand for that. Like, you can step up and say, this isn't for me. Thank you for what you've given me, but it's time for me to move on now.
You can choose whatever path you want. And I'm a big fan of people kind of like being like, okay, that's fine by you. If you want to shift this way, that way, that's fine. There are some precautions I give. I give this to all my students, everyone I teach, even if it's a friendly academy, like same association type of thing, and they want to train over there. I always give the same request. One, be cleanly. Check yourself if you go to an academy, just in case they have some random outbreak. I've seen it happen multiple times, so you don't carry any skin diseases in. Number two, tap early, tap often whenever you go to another academy. You're dealing with random people. Even if they're a friendly academy, it's not a knock on your instructor where you're like, oh, I can't believe I got tapped by this person. It's an insult to my instructor. We don't care. We care about you being functional and having limbs that work, which is pretty awesome. So another little red flag, be wary of gyms where the instructors date their students. That's a big no. That's generally not acceptable in almost any environment, let alone jiu-jitsu environment.
So next question was from...
next question is, how life-changing is jiu-jitsu? And that's actually from Arturo.
How life-changing? Oh my goodness, let me count the ways. Like, for me, when I started as a white belt, a female, 32 years old, stay-at-home mom, I have 3 children at the time. I actually had almost died having my youngest daughter. And so I hadn't done any exercise, guys. None in 2 years. I had not been medically cleared to exercise aside from light walking and doing regular day-to-day activity. So when I got into jiu-jitsu, I was one of those people that said, okay, I have to get fit first. Let me get in shape first. I did for a few weeks a mama boot camp and tried to get in shape. Nothing against mama boot camp. If that's your jam, then go get it, girl, okay? But look, I just personally am a really competitive, kind of intense person. Carl can attest to the fact that I'm pretty aggressive.
You're a go-getter, as we call it.
I'm a go-getter. The mama boot camp just wasn't enough. And I looked at my kids and they inspired me. So I just jumped in it, not knowing that there was this whole philosophical side, this whole side of this beautiful, beautiful art that I was gonna connect with on this deeper mental, emotional level. Now, as a female purple belt, I'm able to kind of give back and pay it forward and volunteer teach women's classes and help other women discover these layers and these parts of them. Jiu-jitsu and helped me to heal parts of me that I didn't know I even needed to heal.
For me, there was a physical and mental side to it. So to rewind back, I didn't know martial arts at all. I started jiu-jitsu when I was 21. Mainly, like, I did literally no martial arts prior. So it was blank slate going into it. And I also did like no exercise either. I was pretty much a video gamer, sodas all day, chips, that sort of thing. That was my healthy diet. My diet hasn't changed all that much, but it does somewhat change. Right when I started jiu-jitsu, I dropped sodas completely because it tastes like trash. Whenever I'm like, exercising a lot, I switched to water, so I kind of cold turkeyed that. My diet slightly improved, not by much, but the amount of mental relief that I get from training is huge. It helps you deal with mental stress. Jiu-jitsu was kind of like, the paradise to go to. It allowed me to be much more mellow, not just with jobs, but with friends, family, much more level-headed, even in relationships. So that was a pretty huge thing. Also, the physical relief is, it's huge. I'm not a big fan of doing exercise. If anyone knows me, hey, you want to work out at the gym? I'm like, oh, you mean jiu-jitsu gym? But you're getting getting a mental release from solving real life problems that are also practical, and you're working out too. So you're kind of like killing two birds with one stone.
After jiu-jitsu, like after a real hard class, like nothing feels quite as difficult. When you leave here and you go out into your world, whatever it may be, it's like everything's figure-outable, you know, like you can figure out a solution. Because in the moment, when you're rolling, when you're training, or even when you compete, you have to frame by frame figure out a solution to whatever the problem is that you're facing. And that really helps you become a problem solver.
Definitely. The next question is the importance of drilling. This is actually a question by your brother.
Drillers are killers. I say it all the time, guys, and it sounds really cliche. Every time I go to class, I literally look at what professor's teaching and I'm like, okay, if you don't drill it, it's less likely you're going to use it. If I've got one move that I can pull off on anyone and everyone, that's way scarier than learning 1,000 moves and not being very proficient at it.
Completely agree. You have to increase your technical proficiency in moves. When I first started off, it was a very chill environment, so a lot of times people would like, when there's a move, we'd do it like 5, maybe 10 times, then talk UFC. That did not go well for actually implementing things. It was insanely difficult to actually get good with any moves because of the low degree of repetitions and the very casual environment of my first gym. So it's very important that you need to build that technical experience. And once you get pretty proficient with your technical experience, I mean, you can have your partner slowly like give a little bit of resistance, not an insane amount, but you always want to bridge the gap from technical proficiency to how it is with a live roll. Because live roll, we're not going to just lay there with our arm extended or something. That typically doesn't happen. So you always have to bridge that gap. It doesn't mean you go 3,000% as a partner on the person who's trying to rep something, but as they get comfortable with doing the technical repetition of the move, then you can make it a little bit harder. I think that's very, very important. My opinion is drilling a flow. What is a flow? Is being able to be mobile, moving it around, and then also maybe stringing moves together. Kind of know what you're going to do next. That way you don't freeze, and whenever you freeze, the other person has an opportunity to respond, to try to get their guard back, and it becomes this back and forth fight. Whenever you focus heavily on like technical ability drills, you also reduce chances of injury. It's huge because when you're moving around frantically without knowing how to place your hands and so on and so forth, at full speed, things can get caught. So it's very important that you put a higher focus, in my opinion, on drilling than rolling. Rolling's good, but you should have drilling. It should be a much higher priority.
You want to be technical, right? Because if you do end up training with somebody who's much larger, and especially if they're larger and more technical, you know, it's gonna be a nice tough roll. Like you're gonna get a really good workout. You're gonna get really good technique in there. And yeah, you might get tapped, it's fine. But at the same time, like if you go up against somebody who's not technical and you're not technical, what are the chances of that you're gonna get injured and then you're gonna leave and you're never gonna come back? Like we want you to come back. We want you to keep on going. So keeping yourself safe, really, a lot of keeping myself safe has been that I have put the hours in towards drilling time. For a self-defense aspect, if I'm being attacked by some crazy like person who doesn't have any technique and they're just violent and they're just coming at me, that's the sequence type of drilling is gonna help me set something up for a wild flailing person.
This is the beauty of whenever you do flow rolling or creating flows of attack sequences. The next one is how long does it take to get used to training? And this is by Arturo.
How long does it take to get used to
That's a fun loaded question.
Okay, so I mean, forever. When you're first starting out, okay, try a couple different schools like we already talked about. Make sure that you're where you feel comfortable. Come into it just as a forever student. You don't feel like you need to be the best at anything because you're not. Don't feel like you have to kill everybody in class because it's not going to happen. Don't feel like you have to know things because you don't, and you're not gonna. And you're in a really good position because as a white belt, there's no expectation there. There's no expectation for you to know everything.
A couple other things to consider is that when you start off in jiu-jitsu, these are not normal movements.
Yeah.
It's also one of the reasons why jiu-jitsu is so effective against people is because a lot of people's natural movements of how they want to fight this position or that position is literally the worst thing you could possibly do.
Yeah.
So when you start off in jiu-jitsu, you're like, oh man, I'm getting super ridiculously tired with barely doing anything. That's not just breathing issues. It's simply because you're also building new muscle groups and you're doing compound movements that your body is literally not used to doing at all. So you're not just learning to breathe, you're not just learning new moves, but you're also reprogramming your body and you're also reprogramming your mind and how to think about situations, how to not focus on like all this craziness movement. Look at what you can control. So in jiu-jitsu, it's not just physical, it's very, very mental. In that you learn how to rethink about things, learn how to analyze situations while under pressure, how to slow things down and be able to assess problems in real time. Being able to slowly gain that skill over time is priceless, and that carries over to jobs, trades, raising children, doing whatever you're doing. Those are very valuable skills to be able to deal with things under pressure and be able to logically assess, break down, and conquer the things that you're dealing with. Next one. These next two, my hair is short, so I don't get to really have much comment on this. First question is protective hairstyles and nail polish for jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Okay, I'll keep this one quick, but let's try to stay away from the acrylics. We did, myself and a couple of girls at my gym did figure out that you can get dip, okay? Gel nail polish on your toes, so you can get gel toenails, right?
You said dip, I was actually thinking the tobacco.
No.
We're going to subject now.
Okay, this is why I'm speaking on this. So dip is a really fun powder that they use at most nail salons now. It costs a little bit more, but it lasts a lot longer, and it doesn't grow out the way that a acrylic would. So it bonds to your actual fingernail. You don't use any tips, no fake fingernails. It's really cool. You can get really short nails. They dip your fingernail in something and then they dip it in a powder. And the powder sticks and then they buff the powder. And so it stays on there and it doesn't grow out in a weird way where it's gonna bend or break off or separate from your fingernail. You can use this during training if you really wanna have pretty, nail polish and stuff, absolutely fine. It doesn't chip off, it doesn't ruin mats. For the hair, I just throw my hair up in a ponytail now. I don't even care if my hair gets ripped out. I'm just gonna be honest. People are
Gracie,
I'm pulling your hair.
Just grab me by the ponytail.
I'm like, I just rip it out. Let's go. How dare you? No. I really don't care anymore. Okay, when you're starting out, I understand why you would want to have your hair in a more of like a solid ponytail braid situation. Some people come in with braids. I don't have time to do that all the time. If you do, good for you. Get your hair braided. But you can just do one simple ponytail like mine. This is what I used to do when I would compete. Even so, if I compete, I'll do it. I have my hair in a ponytail, and then we just put this in a braid and put a smaller band at the end. I don't want to have any like clippies, no bobby pins, because that can scratch somebody, that could poke an eye out, that could scratch the mats up, right? So we want to make sure that we are clipping our fingernails, clipping our toenails, of course, having good hygiene, keeping clean gis, clean rash guards, clean sports bras, clean underclothes. That's my suggestion, or like a bun.
A little suggestion I'll throw in there. If you have like piercings or things that can get caught and ripped out, that's a real issue.
I have these little itsy bags, and you can use like even just a Ziploc sandwich bag. Put your jewelry in there. I wear a silicone wedding ring. If you don't want to do that, just put your wedding ring in the bag, all of that. If you have piercings, that can come out. Unless they're surgical, in which case you might want to think about band-aiding them. All that being said, you can just put that right in your bag, put it in your purse. No jewelry. I've seen a couple of people show up for the first time with a necklace on, or a bracelet, or a watch.
Also, don't put like expensive wedding ring over on the corner. That way it doesn't get scattered. Someone mistakes it for their wedding ring, and then it becomes its own expensive issue.
Another little tip, sometimes we come off work, sometimes you just like wearing makeup. That's fine. I love wearing makeup. I'm actually a professional makeup artist. It's just not worth it to me to leave a bunch of makeup on my face to where it might get smeared all over the mat, all over somebody's, $200. Some people wear like $200 gis. So let's keep that in mind as like, you know, just etiquette, right? We don't want to smear a $200 show your roll white gi, like curl white on white, with our mascara and our, you know, face makeup.
Another question is in regards to taking videos of comps as a source of encouragement. You know, when you take videos of comp as a source of encouragement, it's very, very useful. You can get really good really fast by analyzing your videos. I would highly encourage it for you guys to record yourself and, you know, not be like, oh, I got that sub, see that video of me subbing my teammate. As long as you're not doing weird stuff like that, it's usually pretty cool, and you can make incredible progress saying, oh man, I forgot to post my hand here. I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. And you can make immediate adjustments. I guess I need to do more drilling again on it. So it's very constructive.
It can be very constructive. I would say just don't let it get into your head. We're not watching it so that we can then punish ourselves for whatever we think we did wrong. We only have to keep this mindset, like, I'm still a student. I learned. I didn't win. I learned a lesson. So use it for that. Use it to learn your lesson. See what it is you need to work on. Be proud of yourself for the things that you do great and good, and make sure that you're not picking yourself apart too much and that you're not getting too far in your head, but that you are just taking apart the parts that you need to drill. If you're in a fight, if you're attacked, you know, it's all gonna be this big blur. Good for you to see how your body moves when your mind is not quite paying attention, because your mind does shut down kind of in competition to an extent to where you're just, your body's reacting really quickly.
Another good reason for drills also, because once you do your drills, your body will do stuff without you really having to think a lot about it. So you just like execute, which is huge, especially in high pressure situations or a conflict. Look at your video and you're like, oh man, I messed that up. And then you try to fix it and then you still mess it up a little bit. That's okay. Remember, ask yourself, have you done 1,000 reps of it? The answer is probably no. You're probably at like 50 reps or 100. Keep that in mind. So you have to analyze and fix things, but not have too much of a ridiculous expectation where you kind of like, you're downhearted or you kind of beat yourself down. The last question, drum roll, from Emily. She says one of the things that she wished she'd known when she started off was to say no thanks when someone asked to roll. And like, this doesn't mean like no thanks to every single person over there. Like, how would you roll? But however, there are, again, boundaries and limitations. So it's very important, even if you're a black belt, I'm still cautious of who I roll with, because sometimes you're just like, man, I'm not trying to deal with a dude who's literally double my weight, who's doing weird back flippy stuff, or like doing weird dropping elbows, just clumsy people. I don't want to deal with that. So from my perspective, this is one of the things that I suggest to everyone, male, female. You'll be the fly falling on them, there'll be the hammer dropping on you. So like, you kind of have to be cautious in that way. We want to be here for the long run. We don't want to just randomly go with spastic people, and you have to learn to be like, oh, I'm okay, man. Thank you though.
Your intuition is really important, because there is something inside of you at all times that is saying, that's not such a great idea. You know, I didn't have boundaries, and I wasn't willing to say the no. I was like, oh, I'm gonna roll with everyone. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do the whole thing, and I wanted to be really great, and I wanted to be liked. A little bit of it was pride, my own pride and ego, and a little bit of it was just not respecting myself and having boundaries for myself. So it is okay. Have boundaries, have a firm yes, have a firm no. There's nothing wrong with it, and you don't have to explain yourself. And this is different from just being scared to roll. I was always scared to roll when I started. It's intimidating. You still have to go do it. But you can choose somebody that is similar size and weight and upper belt. And I'm not just saying that you have to pick a female if you're a female. I'm saying it could be an upper belt who is very technical, and they're not going to kill you. They're going to want to help you. Pick wisely who you roll with, and if it's just you and one other person, don't just go, well, I want to roll, so I'm just going to jump in with this 250-pound white belt, oh well, and then come out broken.
It's a miracle if you don't come out broken, honestly speaking. Like, I think that covers all the questions.
That's our Q&A. So we're going to go over one technique of the day from Professor Carl. But thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to send in questions. It's always important to ask questions, and upper belts are not, they're not scary. They want to help you. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and if you like this content, you want to see more, go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe, share. Until next time, guys.
Hey there guys, here's a fun little sweep. My brother Carl Gonsolin, who's also a Jiu Jitsu black belt first degree, showed me it's a really sweep, a very strong sweep, applicable in self-defense, also in Jiu Jitsu, gi or no gi, literally doesn't really matter. It's when a person's trying to hunker down on you in side control. So, person's in a side control with you, your legs are close to your bottom, that way you have bridging pressure, and my right leg is going to be kind of up, floating, blocking your hip. Doesn't block the mount, but makes it a little bit harder and requires more steps. My right arm is going to be framed onto the hip. My left arm is going to have a frame here. Now usually when you do the frame, you try to make it annoying for the person so it's hard for them to put pressure in. But usually if someone's really strong, especially guys who like to squeeze like crazy, they may clasp their hands together, start putting pressure in here like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this frame, and as she starts putting pressure, I'm going to let this frame dissolve. Even if she's not putting a lot of pressure, I just let it start to fall towards me. As it starts to fall towards me, that's when I'm going to explode for my next move, which will be a right hook I'm going to throw with my hand, and I'm going to cup the back of her head. So as I'm here, she's trying to put pressure into me. Go ahead, put pressure. I'll let it fall, hook, and over she goes. Frame like this, have the frame, she starts putting in pressure. I let it fall down, cup, turn, and over she goes. Very effective sweep. Again, shown by my brother Carl Gonsolin. Shout out to the homie. Very, very strong sweep. It doesn't work so well if the person hops into like a knee-on belly or they transition to a north-south side control. But in a normal side control situation where people like to hunker down, it's super easy to hit. Just make sure you cup their head, and as you throw the hard right hook, they'll fly on over you pretty quickly.
For those of you who don't know exactly what knee-on belly, side control, and mount are, first I'm going to be in the position of side control, and Carl is going to be, let's say, the victim, and I'm the aggressor, and I'm on top. I'm trying to pressure him. There you go. Now, and to prevent me from getting up to a mount, and this is a mount here, okay? This is the mount position where I can strike. To prevent me, he's going to show you right there. He's going to prevent me from, move my hip to get on top of him. A knee-on belly position would be if he doesn't do this, I could come up here, which once again, I could strike. So he's going to do that move one more time. Preventing me, using that knee across, he's going to prevent me from being able to get on top of him. Somebody's trying to pressure you.
Let it wither. Let it wither. Let this frame wither in. Cup, turn.
Thank you so much, Carl. We really appreciate it. So, you guys check us out, okay? Everyday Self-Defense on YouTube. Subscribe, like, share. If you're in the area, West Sacramento, come and check out Carl and Colo at Buena Vida Academy. This has been a BJJ Girls Rule production of Everyday Self-Defense with Black Belt Carl Gonsolin. Special thank you to the owner and operator of Buena Vida Academy, Colo Vida.